Obviously, it's Wednesday night. It's In Touch with the Miller Boys, the weekly talk show where we discuss all things impacting the African American community of the city of Fresno and the surrounding area. As always, I'm joined, whether we're here in the studio or whether we Zoom in or however else we're doing it. I'm always joined by soul brother number 2 over here.
1 and 1 makes 2.
Got you.
Reading Rainbow.
So, as always, we have some interesting things to talk about. I'm talking politics for the next, 58 days? I know it'll push you to sleep, but that's okay. I'm talking politics for the next 58 days because we got some work we got to do. And it's not all about electing a new president, although that's a very high priority. We have some local things that we need to be concerned with here locally with our school, with our city and with our school district, with our county, that also needs to be part of the mix. And if you don't want to vote for president, shame on you, but that's your choice. But you should not be skipping your school board races, and there's some measures that are on the ballot, local things, as well as some of the propositions, and I'll go over a couple of them today. Some of the propositions that impacts us as a whole we need to talk about. But before we get going any further, do your census. Go to census2020.org. census2020.org, and make sure you get your census done. From what I understanding, the deadline for the first part of it is September 30th. So some of you will be having people knocking on your doors. Some of you are getting phone calls. They're doing a big push right now to make sure that all people in all households are counted moving forward. And so please go to census2020.org to get your census done. Register to vote. Those of you who need to check your vote status, go to sos.ca.gov, which is the Secretary of State's website for the state of California. When you get to that website, there's all types of options on there. There's one on there where you can register to vote if you need to. You can re-register if you're not sure if you voted. There's also a spot on there where you can check your voter status. So you click on that, type in your name, I think it's your driver's license number, some other stuff, and they will tell you actually if you're an active voter, and if you're an active voter, where you're registered at. And if that doesn't match, then you can go back to that other window to re-register. But the registration component of it is not the issue. We need to make sure that people actually are participating. We got more than enough people registered to get done what we need to get done, but not everybody goes and votes. So I'm not going to get on that high horse tonight, but just know that you're starting to get information in the mail, such as this. My voter guide for the propositions for the state of California came today. I understand that a lot of people are getting that today, so I'll go over a couple propositions in there today. But we're starting to get information in the mail, so make sure that you check your registration, register if you need to, and then develop a plan and make sure you vote in October. Yes, Election Day is November 3rd, but please do not wait until then. Get your ballot completed and get your vote in the mail, Dropbox, or however you're returning it. Have somebody else take it back for you in the month of October, and don't wait, so we don't get caught up in all this rigmarole that's going on with the Postal Service. So those are my two standards to go through.
If you're of age, go down there to the gun store and
Go get a license for it first. Just can't go to the gun store.
oh yeah, you can.
You don't have. You can
You
just go
got
purchase.
you gotta take your stuff and do your stuff right there. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So obviously I ain't a gun owner, so I don't know all that
Yes,
stuff.
indeed. But make sure you take the licenses and do the proper training so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot and have, problems when limping around when you get old. But it's a dangerous world out there.
So what about Todd Williams, who got his?
Who, Plexico Borders?
Nah,
Oh,
you being
no.
funny. I was trying to be serious. But anyway, okay. So that's
Who's Todd Williams?
somebody I just made up. I was gonna
Oh.
give you an example, but you going real life. I mean, he don't know. His fingers was too long. His pockets was too short, and when he stuck his big hand in his pocket, the gun went off.
That's why he needed proper training. Proper training.
All right, yeah, he shot himself right out the league with that.
Right on out. Shot all his money out the door.
So anyway, before you go going, since you brought that up, how do you feel about the NFL coming back? Did you enjoy that?
I watched the first. I watched this first weekend.
I was amped. I ain't been amped about the NFL in a while. I'm not quite sure
but I'm
what
now
it was,
done. I'm done.
but I'm not done.
I'm done.
I got that package where I can watch all 13 games at one time if I want to, flipping through them.
Yeah. I'm
I was
done.
all jazzed
I'm
up
done.
Sunday. I was able to watch football and get work done.
I had to struggle through it. My bigger concern was the basketball league returning back, and now it's all back. We made our stand. We left. We did our thing, and now they're back. And
What do you mean?
what has turned? They're back.
The NBA?
Yeah, the NBA. So the leagues are continuing to carry on.
Oh, that means you ain't been keeping up. They done turned every public stadium and public arena that's publicly financed in an NFL and NBA city will be used as voting stations.
Yes, I understand that.
So when you say that they just moved on, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
They've moved on. To me, that's a. How is that a win?
Because you have now accessibility for people, a huge number of accessibility with public spaces for people to be able to participate in the voting.
So if you're here in Fresno, or Sanger, or Modesto, or Bakersfield, that's an option afforded to you?
That's not an option afforded to them. That's the NBA stadiums.
Oakland.
I'm not sure about San Francisco with
I didn't say San Francisco. I said
Oakland. I don't think because I'm not an NFL city. I don't know.
Oh, you mean an NBA city?
San Francisco's not an NBA city.
Yes, they are.
Oakland's not. San Francisco is. The arena's in San Francisco.
Okay. Are you flustered?
No. But the
okay.
arena is in San Francisco now. It's not in Oakland anymore.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes. So Oakland is not. I know exactly what I'm saying.
I don't. You ain't clarify.
For the rest of the state, except for L.A. and Oakland, Sacramento, it does nothing, and the majority of the people do not live in L.A., San Francisco, and Sacramento.
California is a horrible example of that because we all get our ballots mailed to us at home. So if you want to talk about a place such as Miami and Orlando, Tampa Bay, if you want to talk about a state like Alabama, which has no NFL, has no NBA, it won't necessarily impact them and what they're going on. But New York is going to be hugely impacted by it. New Jersey will be, not all of New Jersey, but the New Jersey part that's just across the river from New York City, they'll be heavily impacted by it. Michigan, Detroit, those places with the basketball arena stuff, they'll be heavily impacted by it. But yeah, I agree that it's not, the benefits are not going to be seen by everybody, but it is a substantial. That's something substantial. Have you seen the commercials they're doing about voting? I mean, what did you expect for them to do? I mean,
Do you think they would have had or the intentions of their action was to have an impact? And when you do stuff, you would like to receive the greatest impact for your actions.
So what? So give me an example.
Agreed or not agreed?
Agreed. So
Okay.
give me an example that would be greater than the impact in which they have right now. The opening of the arenas, which is about 60.
Give you
50
an
or 60.
example
Yeah.
of
Give me an example of a greater impact that the leagues could have done. What is it that you're expecting for them to do?
they should have took their behinds home and sat down.
How does that benefit? How would that act benefit the ultimate goal, which is to get voter participation?
Because you can leverage the fact that you've taken a whole league off of the table, and we're not coming back. And you guys are not going to make your billions of dollars until you give us what we want. That's like knocking on the door, smelling the folks in there cooking and doing, and you peeking around the corner, and they say, "Well, here's 2 cookies. Just leave us and go away."
What is it that the NBA and the professional athletes want?
Obviously, they want to get paid.
Okay, but in the context of what we're talking about, with the outcome of their actions leading to something political, what is it that, in your estimations, what is it that the players wanted as a political outcome?
The protest was for the police departments to stop shooting black folks. Black Lives Matter.
That's one aspect of it. That's not the only aspect of it. We have legislation right now, bills in the state legislature in California, at least 4 that I know of, maybe even more, that talk about police use of force, police departments reporting bad actors, police officers having immunity when they tell on or report on a fellow officer not doing what he's supposed to do. So,
my statement was that they should have done more and they should have stayed home. So the things that you're now mentioning is something that they could have incorporated into their platform of, we're not coming back until we see X, Y, Z, this, that, and the other done.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not how you get things done. I think they used their leverage. There's probably more that could have been done, but I applaud the outcomes that they got. For them to have finance, so there are these cities whose arenas, basketball arenas and football stadiums, are paid by public dollars. So every city, NBA and NFL, who has a publicly funded stadium or arena is now a voting center. I think that's incredible. That's it. Now, whether or not we use it as a population, as a populace, whether or not we go and take advantage of it, that's up to us individually. But they're also running commercials, they're running all types of ads and different things about the importance of voting. And they don't tell you who to vote for. They don't necessarily tell you how to vote. They tell you that voting is important. You got to get out and vote. We are making accessibility greater for you to be able to participate in that. And so I applaud them. I applaud.
Just like they did, some 20 years ago with Rock the Vote?
Rock the Vote was a PR. It was more of agreed, it was an attempt, but it was all PR. Rock the Vote didn't get any arenas or additional voting standards in. Rock the Vote didn't get state legislatures to deal with police violence. It was an opportunity or an attempt to get people to participate in the vote. And I'm sure the Rock the Vote had some numbers that they could equate to, but nothing like what's going to happen out of this one. I believe there is going to be this will be the highest participation rate in voting in my lifetime.
Because Donald Trump is driving people to the polls.
Okay. I think that's an element of it also. But I think the other elements that
I think actually, as I think about it critically, I think the voter suppression that has been done throughout the South and with the U.S. Postal Service will one for one, or maybe even exclude altogether the gains that you would make with the NBA coming in and voting. Yeah, because you want to hear it twice. It's so nice you got to hear it twice.
but that's exactly what you're saying right now is exactly why I encourage people, as even in this show, to not let somebody else dictate whether or not your vote counts. If you want to participate in voting, get your ballot out of your hands in October. Because I don't care what happens with the Postal Service, unless it drops dead, it shouldn't take them 2 weeks to get your ballot to your local, because remember, your ballot is going to your local county. It's not going to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So, I mean, even on a bad transition, you put your mail in a drop or a mailbox here, maybe it goes to Sacramento, I'm guessing, and maybe come back, or L.A. and come back. It shouldn't take more than about 10 days to get that done.
Yeah, I agree. But there are accounts of people that are more and more. I was watching something last night. I don't remember what show it was on, where the guy said he mailed a letter that should have gone 3 blocks, and it took them 21 days.
Yeah, because they sent it out to.
Well, I mean the reasons why. So the problem with that is that if your vote has to be in before 2 days after, you get a 24-hour or 48-hour leeway for the post to stamp or whatever, and it's missed.
Don't use the Postal Service. Don't use the Postal Service.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Use a drop box.
I understand.
California, we have drop boxes you can use. California and everywhere else, you can also go in. We call them vote centers in California. They call them other things at other places where you can actually, you don't have to go and stand in line. You can actually go into a place and drop your ballot off. If you don't, I mean, that's what I mean about the participation in voting. I mean, it hasn't been any easier.
I'm saying that people need to just, when they get their ballots, they need to fill it out, put it in the mail, send it back. I'm telling you that I think that the things that Trump has done with the post office is going to eliminate a lot of votes that should have counted or will not be counted. And what I'm saying is that's going to probably offset the strides that they've made for the NBA getting their arenas sanctioned as voting stations and places.
Hence, make a plan about how you're going to vote. Make a plan A, B, and C. Execute that plan. If you don't trust the U.S. Postal Service, use the drop box. Take your ballot in October to the vote center here in California or to the elections office in the other states. There is a place, even the people, so in Oregon, where Michael is, or I guess it's where Michael is, isn't that with all that fire and stuff that burned up those 2 towns? Mm-hmm. Oregon now is sending them, because Oregon has been doing vote by mail 100% in the state for 20 years. So they actually just sent out information. I'm not sure if it was the state of Oregon or who exactly sent out the information, but they were sending information out and making PSAs about, although your house is burned down and you don't have a mailbox to be able to receive your ballot, you will have access to go to this place, which will be your vote center, so that you can cast your vote. Even if you don't have your ballot, if you didn't receive it in the mail, you will still have accessibility to go to this particular place, which we are designating as a place.
That's great. So am I hearing you say that Donald Trump set the fire so to burn down people's houses so that they? Oh, okay.
That ain't what you.
But no, you're right. I'm just saying, and where we first started is, I don't think that it's a traumatic impact that the NBA went back to going and playing. I think that that's a personal issue that they look. They spent all that money to keep those folks making money for them. And then they, I don't, if you want to make an impact, sometimes you're gonna, if you want to dig a ditch, you're going to get dirty. Mm-hmm. And I think that they went and got a shovel and they stuck the shovel in the ground and they said, this is not for me. Let's go back and let's get these Bentley payments done and these household payments done. And I understand why they did what they did, but I think it would have made a greater impact if they would have just went home, packed their bags, went home, and said, we're done. This year is done. This year is done until you X, Y, and Z. And in the same, okay, go ahead, because.
So if they packed up, shut down, and went home, what impact would that have on the election cycle, on making change.
Well, then you bring them back to negotiate. You then negotiate with them, and if they don't give you what you want, then you go sit down. Okay, so I did that because we're gonna go back and forth because I think that they should have not went back, and you are telling me how great it was for them to go back. How do you feel about Sheriff Villa, whatever his name is, down there in L.A., who has challenged LeBron James to match the funding of the officer that was shot, the two officers that were shot? Now, we're not talking about. I don't want to know about what it, the issue is. The issue is that I want to talk about is him challenging someone, a public figure like that.
I don't have a problem with him challenging a public figure. I have a problem with him challenging LeBron James, because LeBron James is not the richest dude down there. LeBron James is not the most famous down there. LeBron James is not the most influential guy in Los Angeles. So why did that, whoever it was, sheriff chief or whatever he was why
sheriff.
did he pick out LeBron James to put that challenge to?
Because LeBron James has been so vocal with saying Black Lives Matter.
So
and LeBron James was one of the people who got the NBA to go down that line of thinking with the understanding that they may go on strike and not come back, and that's the impact that would have had. But I want to know. So it's just he shouldn't have.
His intentions was wrong. He didn't. He's not the sheriff dude. The law enforcement dude is not doing it because he wants assistance and help trying to find out whoever that shooter was. He's trying to put LeBron James on blast.
Agreed.
And I don't agree with that. If you seriously want help and those type of things, then open it up or target a very influential person. Some of those guys that are behind the scenes, Warner Brothers, and some of those other guys, Myers, Goldwyn, and them dudes down there with the movie theaters. Go, not movie theaters, but those studios. Go after those guys for if you want to go after money. If you want to go after more influential people down there, you got Garcetti. You got the mayor of the city. Have him use his influence and stuff. For him to pick out LeBron was targeted, and it was targeted for the wrong reasons. I have no problem with a police chief coming and asking help of the public to try to solve a crime
in your
against his
words,
officer.
your understanding, why did he target LeBron?
Same thing, what you just said. LeBron has been very vocal. Well, Black Lives Matter. He was a lead force. I understand, but he was the face of what went on with the NBA. But there were some other more vocal, influential people that happened in the NBA. But LeBron, because he's the king in NBA, he was kind of the face of it. But he was picked out. He was targeted in that situation. He was, and that's not cool. If you seriously, genuinely. So the sheriff's intent should have been to get assistance from the public to find whoever that shooter was. That should have been his intent. Now, how he goes about getting that help, whether it be asking for donations or the matching funds and stuff, I have no issue with that. But when you take that type of initiative to specifically target LeBron James, that ain't cool.
So how do you think LeBron James should have reacted or responded to that?
I wouldn't have responded. If I was LeBron James, I wouldn't have responded.
And the reason you would not have responded?
I'm not going to get into a tit because I know what his intentions are. And anytime out of 10 scenarios, LeBron responding, he can only be right in 3 or 4 of them. So if it's a less than 50% positivity rate for you to respond, don't respond. Let that dude continue to do whatever it is he's doing. If LeBron wants to use his foundation or whatever to give them money on the back end or however they do it or whatever, LeBron can do that on his own. But LeBron shouldn't be shamed by being targeted by this dude trying to make a point at his expense.
So does the sheriff have influence over LeBron and what LeBron does? can he affect LeBron, his lifestyle?
I'm assuming he can, in a sense that if there's a call, I don't know where LeBron lives, but if he has a call and he's in that jurisdiction, then, the blue code can say, look, remember this dude wouldn't support us with this, or, his son, say his son gets pulled. That's what I think the negative impact would be, not so much with LeBron himself, but with LeBron's sons. One of them is out driving or something, all of a sudden they run the plates, find out it's LeBron James' registered car, they pull it over. So that's how I think it would negatively impact him.
So the thing that is interesting to me is the way that it's being discussed here at the table, the influence that law enforcement has over the general public. Because what you're saying is there's going to be some retaliation or retribution. Could be some retaliation or retribution. Mm-hmm. Now, he runs a department, and LAPD and all of these different folks who have a mindset of their own, but it's going to be a hive mindset because blue lives matter, which is not a race of people, so that's beyond crazy to me. And however, they can take this and see this any way they want to, and then they can manipulate the understanding to come down on LeBron James or his family or pro basketball players or whomever. And I think that's terrible.
Agreed.
I think that's terrible, that the leader of a I don't want to say the leader of a heavily armed pack of individuals could think that that's okay. I have an issue with it.
So is what that Villanueva did in the way that you just painted, is that any different than what Donald Trump has been doing as president?
I didn't say either one of them was right.
No.
Is it? No. And then I'll say, I didn't say either one of them was right.
Neither did I. I'm just asking a question.
No.
So what the point I'm trying to make is that is what I keep hearing from people is that is the cruelest, meanest, most negative component about Donald Trump's 4-year tenure, is that he has set the foundation, has set the groundwork for people to act outside of the way that they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. I agree with you. That police officer, that police person, that police guy in charge.
The sheriff of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
He should have not done what he did in the manner in which he did it. But his example, he got an example every day of doing stuff that he ain't got no business doing. On Facebook, we're on Facebook tonight. You can go on Facebook and look at all these different people who are doing things that they traditionally would not do, because they have a leader.
Because they're emboldened. They're
right.
emboldened in their power.
Agreed.
So that's why I think a little bit differently. I think LeBron James should have made a statement and expressed to the sheriff his disappointment in how he went about trying to influence LeBron to do something. And then LeBron should have called him into a private meeting, and then they could have discussed it further behind the scenes. But we have to understand that you have to meet that force with force.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
That's exactly what Donald Trump does. That is exactly part of the personality trait that is exhibited on a daily basis by the guy who's in charge of the United States government. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly the characteristics that I'm telling you that this police officer now is emboldened to use. It takes a hell of a person when they get, and spiritually, but it's about the Bible. If they slap you on one side, I got you. If they slap you on your right cheek, give them the left cheek to hit you on also. It's not about retaliation.
No, it's not about retaliation.
But that's
it's about stopping the force that is victimizing you or taking advantage of you or trying to victimize you or taking advantage of you. And that spiritual turn your cheek and let them sock you in the other cheek. I'm not down with that.
I understand that. I got that part. But what you're saying is no different than the things that you also say that you're against. You cannot continue to do things in a manner in which they're done. Things don't change unless there is a change, that something in the cog has to be different.
Things don't change unless you force the change.
No, I disagree with you.
Of course you do.
Force in our system, in our society, in our structure, force begets more force. Force begets more force. We've got to get out of the business of answering all our questions and all our responses in a forceful manner. Sometimes keeping your mouth quiet and not responding at all is the most powerful thing you can do. I'm not saying being nonviolent and stuff. I'm just saying you got to be in control.
Oh, I agree.
LeBron goes.
I agree that you have to be in control.
So LeBron goes to this press conference with the intent of basically responding back to what this law officer did. There's a reporter in there that goads him, gets him to go off script or whatever, and now he said something publicly that he didn't intend to, and now he becomes a bad guy. So when you're dealing in that type of...
But then in that same scenario, LeBron can come in there, make his statement, and show strength and not answer any questions from anybody and move on.
But then they'll say that you coward because you came in and made your statement and you didn't allow anybody to answer any question.
Why do you have to? This is what you're telling me now, that you don't have to respond or tell everybody.
But you did. You went in there,
right.
You went in there and shared.
But you're not responding to them. Why do you have to respond to well, do it in an empty room. Well, do it where there's nobody there.
So why are you, if it's that important, why are you not?
Because it's important for me.
I got you. But
to greet force with force. That's how you change things.
So then you're going to get, I just believe that force begets force. Whether it's the first force, the second force, the third force, whatever it is, force begets force. And if your intent is not to get force, then you need to use another tool other than force to respond to whatever the antecedent force was. I firmly believe that.
Okay.
So what was the other thing you asked me about? I didn't get a chance to look at the lady.
I can't remember. It's in here.
You sent me another thing. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I think it might be still in here.
Oh, I'll find it.
It was a press not press conference.
I don't want. My phone finally came up. So
anyway, you can look for it to find it. Okay, so I am.
Oh, it was the people who had the anti-mask rally in Utah.
Okay, yeah, I did not get a chance to watch that clip.
Okay.
So what's your question?
Or just how do you know, after seeing that and listening to the people's statements about disbelief and they don't believe that that coronavirus is real and they why should they wear masks? It's an impingement of their rights to. I just wanted you to watch it so that you could give some information. How you felt about that.
So they do have a First Amendment right to not be infringed upon by government. Okay, so you can say what you, for the most part, you can say what you want, you can do what you want. There are some restrictions on that, but for the most part, gives you the ability to do things in the way you want to. However, when there is a situation such as a pandemic, and your county or your state imposes rules and regulations that are applicable to everybody universally, you don't have the ability to sway from that without some type of punishment. without some type of penalty.
You can't do what you want without some type of penalty or punishment if it jeopardizes the safety of everybody else.
I got you. There's restrictions, but wearing a mask is not, in general, wearing a mask or a face covering does not impinge upon other people's civil liberties. The reason why it impinges upon them now is because that is the number one way of transmitting this virus. And actually, the doctor came out today, I forget old boy's name, who came back in there and says, vaccine is not going to be ready for public use until next year, halfway through the year next year. And in the meantime, the most effective way to mitigate this virus is to wear a mask or face covering. So when you get those types of directives from your county government, your city government, your state government, then now you got to follow that. You saw the Emmanuel school. The judge came back and says, shut your doors. You guys, you need to shut your doors to face-to-face instruction immediately.
Right. Now, why would he say that?
I don't know the whole story, but it sounds like when he initially said they can stay open, he did not have enough information, or there wasn't a case presented enough that it was infringing on people's safety and rights. So when you don't have enough, or you can't make a decision, then everything stays status quo. Sound like he's now been presented with some additional information. I don't know from where, either he got it or somebody presented it to him, where it is an infringement for the people who are at Emmanuel School to be there in those face-to-face instruction. So now he's shutting them down. So it's interesting, and I'm gonna keep up with that, because that is I think that's the one school that was open in the county, wasn't it? To face, although it's not part of Fresno County Schools.
Yeah, I think that those were the people who were denying, God will take care of us, and yeah, put everybody else in jeopardy because you're selfish and you want to do what you want to do, and I understand.
Okay. And that's fine, but you can't, in your house, if you go back to your house and you're on your property, you don't have to wear no face mask. And you can do what you want to do on there. You cannot have a crowd over, so I don't know what the county standard is now, but say if the county says you cannot have gatherings over 20 people, even on your private property, if you have more than 20 people in a gathering, there you got 21 people, now you're in violation of the new law, new legislation that's in that particular area. But if there's 19 people, you can do whatever you want to do in your house, and no mask and that kind of stuff. When you get outside your property, and now you're in a city structure or in a school setting, and those type of things, it's not anymore longer just about you.
Public place.
Right. It's no longer just about you. It's about the safety of everybody that's involved in that. And so, and it's becoming real clear.
So the clip that I had, the news article, was about the folks in Utah that were marching around. I think it was the county seat, or they were marching in public in a large group, saying how they didn't agree with the mask issue. That's what that was about. That's what.
Do you remember where it was? What city?
No, I don't. It was in Utah somewhere.
So Utah is its own beast, though, too, because of that state is very, very, very heavy. The laws and legislature of that state is heavily influenced by the Mormon church. And so they have a little bit different perspective and directive and responses. And I'd be willing to bet you that any type of march or protest that's in that vein has also been signed off and sanctioned through the Mormon church. And that's just it's a different setting.
Well, these types of marches are going on everywhere. They took up one today that I saw in Target. They just took their mask off, started marching around in Target. So the and asking you is, what do you do when you go into a store and you don't? There's people in there without masks on.
If I'm uncomfortable, I leave.
Okay.
And so, like, when I go in, like, convenience stores, if I go in a convenience store and somebody in there don't have a mask on, if I can keep my distance and not have to go through their cloud, whatever, then I'm good. But if I just leave, I don't have to go.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
other
I
stores.
agree.
There's other stores to go into, and I think my reaction in my head is, this selfish SOB don't give a damn about nobody. I don't care that you're just running in to go pay your $20 at the counter for your gas, or you're going to get your cigarette. Put a mask on, if not for you, for the rest of us.
They don't care about the rest.
I got you, but that's what I'm saying. That's my reaction internally. You selfish SOB. But, you know, I have a choice also. I have a choice. I can meet them by saying something to them. But I think that it'll be a negative outcome more so on me than on them. So if I'm uncomfortable, I'll just leave. I mean, I've done it a couple times. Go to stores and look in. And I get to the door. Go to the next one down the street. And so that's how I utilize my free will. Because now if it was somebody in there working behind the counter and the kitchen and stuff like that, then I probably would say something. I still wouldn't buy anything there, but I would say something to them. But if it's a patron coming in there, selfish SOB, and make sure I protect myself. So I got my fourth today. Got my fourth negative coronavirus test. And now, by the way, and that's some good information, those of you who are in the Fresno County area, if you go to any of the free COVID testing that's done in conjunction with the University of California, San Francisco, UCSF, which Miguel Arias, Esmeralda Soria, most of the city people are using, they now give you the swab and let you swab your own nose. So I want to share that with you because of the experience that you shared with me about the swab.
Yeah, ain't no more going up in my nose.
Okay. I mean,
that's a positive thing. What you just
I just want to be, because of dealing
ain't
with
nobody sticking
my
nothing up in my
parents.
nose no more.
I got you, but because of my contact and regular goings on with my parents, I'd rather be safe than sorry. And so yeah, I got negative response number 4 today. So today's a good day, although I feel great.
Good.
Other than this campaign and stuff is getting the best of me, but anyway, so I lost my train of thought. Something else I was going to ask you.
How great I am, and how did I turn out to be so great? Well, it was a long time ago, in the year of '67, and my parents had a second son, and they said, well, since we screwed up with the first one, we're going to do this one right.
Okay, so anyway, I don't remember what I was going to ask you another question. Something came up tonight.
You know that coronavirus is they're starting to do these long-term studies of people as long as since March, and they're saying that memory loss is a sign of coronavirus now.
People say, okay, so originally the coronavirus people were designated as a pulmonary, so a virus that attacked your lungs, and now they're saying it's not. It's just that the lungs is its free way to get into the body because it's negatively affecting other organs, brain, blood. I guess it's doing a lot of stuff with the blood as well. People are having scarred lungs, they're having scarred, I forget, not scarred, but stressed with their heart. There's all kind of different things that are going on, but they're saying now that it's not a virus that necessarily causes pneumonia, but it goes into your body through your lungs, through your nasal passages, and that's how it gets into the body. So anyway, I want to talk about this real quick. So about the voter's guide. Inside of this, which people got today, are all your propositions. The propositions go 14 through 25. Want to show it again? Can you zoom in or no?
Push it out.
You funny.
Push it out.
That's the zoom in. All right, got you. Anyway, so propositions are numbered 1 through 25, I believe it is. And so there's 2 ways that propositions wind up being on our ballots when election time. One is that people get signatures. So if you want to get a proposition on the ballot, you got to get X amount of signatures. All the propositions this time, except for 4, went through the signature process. There are 4 propositions that we have in here, 16, 17, 18, and 19. No, 19, 18, 19, anyway. There's 4 of them on here that were put on by the legislatures. So the people in Sacramento did whatever they do. I don't know what their whole process is, but they did whatever they did to get 4 propositions on here on the ballot. So one of the propositions, there's a bunch of them in here that are important to us, but the one that I want to talk about is Proposition 15. Prop 15 is the one that deals with businesses and corporations that make over $3 million a year, having their property taxes increased from the 1978 rate, where it was froze with Proposition 13 long back then, to rates now 2020-21. And so we're talking about places like Magic Mountain, Disneyland, some of them huge golf courses that are down in Southern California, as well as probably the golf course around here, Airways and different places like that. If it's over $3 million, now having their property taxes increased to get up to standard market rate. They're going to be assessed taxes at the market rate based on now rather than in 1978. It's targeted to raise around $11 billion. If it passes with a yes, it raises $11 billion. 40% of that money will go to education, junior college, down, and the other 60% goes to municipalities, so the city governments, some hospital facilities, and those type of things. It's great. It needs to happen. You can attest to this as well as I can. 1978, when Prop 13 passed, we went from having a full experience with the recreation department in the summertime, where we're learning to swim, arts and crafts, playing tennis, Little League baseball, Pop Warner football. Our parks and recreation department at that time, especially in West Fresno, where we spent a lot of time, was fully engulfed, fully funded, fully employed. As soon as Proposition 13 came out, everything shut down. It affected schools in a sense that there was no more summer school. So a lot of the students who were struggling during the regular year, who could have went and patched in some of the holes during the summertime at their school, they couldn't do it anymore because there wasn't funding to be able to go to summer school. When we were in high school, I don't know if you remember this, you can only go to summer school if you got an F and you were making up a grade or for driver's education. You couldn't do any enrichment. There was nothing else for you to do during the summertime except for make up grades, make up credits, or to do driver's education. And so we need to fill in those blanks. And what we got going on right now with coronavirus and not being able to be in classes one-on-one for one-on-one instruction, what we've got with the diminishment of our green spaces, and especially in South Fresno, a yes vote on Proposition 15 will help. It won't fix all of that, but it will give resources, at least to the school districts and the cities, to be able to mitigate some of those. Fresno Unified alone is targeted to get an extra, it's estimated between $65 and $80 million onto their budget. So we're not talking about small potatoes and small change here. We're talking about a significant amount of money then that we can go into school and municipalities. So I want to make sure I hit that. Proposition 15, yes, 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 yes on Proposition 15. You remember when Proposition 13 hit?
I remember the change, yeah.
Big time change. Every summer we would, because our father ran the recreation department, the playgrounds in West Fresno. So every summer we were going to San Francisco Giant baseball games, Oakland A's baseball games, Dallas Cowboys training camp. We would go to Sequoias to the Big Trees. We'd go to Dinky Creek, different places. Go to Monterey to the aquarium. And for kids growing up in the south end of town, in particular Southwest Fresno at that time, for many of them that was their first interaction, first time experiences with those type of entities. And that was brought about through the recreation department. Prop 13 came through, cut off those extra funding based off of some misinformation, and you see what the result is now. We don't have youth programs. As far as athletics, at least, is sinful. I won't say shameful. It's sinful the outlets that kids have right now to be able to participate. And so I believe that this will be a great step in the direction to try to mitigate and fill in some of the deficiencies we've got in education, as well as some of the deficiencies we have in the city of Fresno.
Yeah, I agree. It's a positive.
So let me ask you this question. What about the one that has to do with cash bail? Are you familiar how that system works? Okay, so there's one on there with cash bail that I'm learning about. There's another one, another proposition in here where
I haven't looked at the ballots or paid any attention to them yet, so I haven't studied anything.
one of the two other big ones in there I'll talk about real quickly is one of them has to do with voting. And so a yes on this proposition, I don't remember what the number is in here, but voting yes on it will allow a 17-year-old to vote in the primary. So say I have a son who's going to turn 18 in October. So he'll be 18 for the general election in November, but he will not be 18 for the primary election in March. But because he turns 18 prior to the general election, he then, as a 17-year-old, can vote in the primary. That will be significant because, remember, there's more under 40-year-old people now than there are over 40-year-old people. So I'm a big proponent of that also. I think that if you are old enough to go to war, you should be participating in voting in the voting process. The other one that's in there of interest has to do with restoring voting rights.
So what you're saying is a 17-year-old should be able to vote in the primary, and then
So a
can vote.
yes on that proposition. I
I'm
don't have time to look at
just-
it.
just- So a 17-year-old should be able to vote in the primary, and then would be able to vote in the, no. You
So
said,
currently, right now,
no. You said the first one, the primary, and then the,
primaries are in March, the general is in November.
in general. So
Yeah.
you saying that a 17-year-old should be able to vote
In
the
both of those
primary?
elections, primary and general.
A 17-year-old.
Yes, if he turns 18 prior to the first Tuesday in November.
How come we just can't wait till their birthday to do that?
Well, one of the things is that, so like the presidential election this year, they would be able to vote, that scenario, they would be able to vote for president with the two people, but they wouldn't have been able to participate in the primary.
How come you can't wait till you're 18 to vote?
You are, but in a calendar year, so in the year of 2020, there's two votes.
Why do they need to vote when they're 17?
Because they need to participate. They need to be encouraged to participate in the process as early as they can. There's
That's a gateway drug.
yeah, exactly. It's a gateway drug to voting.
I
Yes.
don't agree with that.
Okay, that's fine. It's a gateway drug to
When
voting.
you turn 18, go vote. Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's another proposition
So
I'm
which one
big
was that?
on.
No on what?
You figure it out. You got your book at home. And the other one keeps, restoring voting rights. So currently, right now in the state of California, if you are not on federal or state parole, you are eligible to vote. Okay? So even people who are locked up in Fresno County Jail can vote if they got their ballots, as long as they're not on felony, state or federal parole. Okay, this proposition measure in here, a yes on them that they're trying to change would be basically when you get from behind bars, whether you're on parole or not, once you get released from your sentence, then they would restore your rights back to that time.
I can agree with that.
Okay, so that's a provision in here and proposition that's in here.
So someone says, Pepper Cheek, have you heard anything that they're afraid that Proposition 15 is going to raise property and homeowner property taxes?
Yes. No, that's not. If you are a business or corporation that makes over $3 million a year, then you are going to have your property taxes go up. If you're under that, or you are just a regular homeowner right now, you're already paying tax rates at this level now. So you're not affected by that. Also, ag is exempted from the property taxes component also. However, if you live on your farm, then your living area, wherever you live, your house is, that is going to be applicable to the tax increases, but the land, the trees, the cows, that type of stuff is exempted from it. So no, to answer your question, Terrence, no, homeowners' property taxes will not be going up. The only property taxes that's going to be going up is if you are a business, a corporate business owner that makes over $3 million a year. So what you're saying right now is the hype, how they got Prop 13 passed back in 1978. And by the way, go to your book. It's got pros and cons in there. So go to your book in there and do your own homework and do your own research. Actually, you can Google it on, go to the Secretary of State's site on here also. That's where this comes from. So, so we're at the 9 o'clock witching hour. Any parting words?
Love, peace, and hair grease.
I mean, we almost got 900 followers now. You feeling potent?
No.
I don't either, but that's okay.
I appreciate, don't get it wrong. I appreciate everybody that's participating and enjoying. What I would like to see, though, is that more people would send us information that you would want to see us discuss or talk about. As you can see, we have very different opinions on things. Mine are usually right, and I appreciate the fact that you side with me, and I agree, and I get that, and I get that. It's hard to fight with the beauty and
So he fights for a win. I fight to inform. So even if I
don't fight for a win.
If I make a mistake,
I'm not
if
wrong.
I misstate something, please know that I am trying to do it in an information vein, and even in my shortcomings, I will use that to inform the public as well.
I don't fight for a win.
You just said you was always right.
I am.
Okay, that's a win.
I fight for facts.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, no,
yes,
you
I
don't.
do.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, I do.
That's G-Mill's opinion. Anyway.
Oh, yes, I do.
We're up against it.
Yes,
as
I
always,
do.
we love and appreciate all the support
Logic
that we
and
got out
facts.
there.
Logic and
You've
facts.
been watching In Touch with the Miller Boys
Yes, I do.
on Wednesday evenings, your local
Yes, I do.
talk show where we talk about and discuss all
Yes, I
things
do.
impacting the African American community, city of Fresno.
Ain't nothing wrong with being right all the time, right,
Until
brother?
next week, peace.